Hello, my name's Ian Manick. Today in this video presentation we'll be looking at annotated bibliographies. We'll be looking at what they are, why we use them in our academic studies, and how we go about compiling them. I hope you find it of use. Thank you. What is an annotated bibliography? An annotated bibliography is a list of information sources that you have used in the course of your research on a particular topic or area of study. These sources can include things such as books, conference papers, journal articles, formal reports, even things such as video presentations, video recordings, television shows, DVDs, etc. This is an example of a list of references that have been constructed in relation to a particular area of study, topic area. An annotated bibliography not only lists the sources that you have used, but also provides a brief, concise description and critique of each source. The key words here are brief and concise. Here's an example of an annotation for a specific reference. As you can see at the top, there is a reference correctly formatted using an appropriate referencing style. Beneath it, the annotation is brief, succinct, clear, and provides the information related to that particular reference. Why do we do annotated bibliographies? Why an annotated bibliography? Writing and maintaining an annotated bibliography is an essential part of any research project because it allows you to document how you have critically engaged with the literature and sources of information in the area that you are studying and researching. An annotated bibliography should be constructed in a way that reminds you of a source's relevance, accuracy, and its quality. So what is an annotation? As mentioned previously, annotations should be brief and concise. They can describe and/or critique the various sources of information. An annotated bibliography usually contains a summary of the subject of the source and briefly outlines the author's argument, methodology, and conclusions. An annotated bibliography might also contain a brief explanation of the reliability of the evidence presented, its relevance, and the source of your own research and major strengths and weaknesses of the source. Remember, annotations usually describe and evaluate. Unless otherwise directed in your assignment, you should write a brief and concise annotation that summarizes the item. For example, if it's a journal article, this will be descriptive and objective. Evaluates and critiques the source. This will be subjective. Include one or more sentences that evaluate the authority or the background of the author, comment on the intended audience, compare or contrast this work with another, explain how this work illuminates your own bibliography or your own study area. Writing an annotation. First of all, there is no single correct way to write an annotation and to compile an annotated bibliography. Follow the directions of your own lecturer and the specific assignment requirements when you're tasked with taking on an annotated bibliography. Generally, following these three key ingredients for it will work. An annotated bibliography should be brief, concise, and succinct. Generally, each annotation should be approximately half a page in length and no more than 1 page maximum. So what actually goes into writing an annotation? Firstly, use a recognized referencing method. For example, at CSU we use the APA referencing method. Correctly cite your reference. Here's an example of a reference written by Jones, Colonial Paintings in New South Wales Art Galleries, cited using the APA system. Read the information you have sourced. It may seem fairly simple, it may seem logical and natural, but you'd be amazed that some students still try to compile an annotated bibliography without reading the references they've collected. In one or two sentences, clearly, succinctly, and briefly, explain the main purpose and main points of the reference. Explain the relevance to your study or your research area. Provide a critical comment. And if you want more information, go to the CSU Student Services website, where there is information available under Learning Guides related to writing annotated bibliographies. Now here is an example of an assignment requirement that we've taken from the Australian National University's website as an example of what an assignment may look like. In this instance, students have been asked to compile an annotated bibliography, total of 1,200 words, of 6 particularly useful sources that approach the topic from different angles, provide different sorts of information, and/or provide different sorts of interpretation. In 200 words, give a brief account of the information each provides, why each source is worth including, how the various sources relate to each other. Your list of sources should include at least 1 book, at least 2 academic journal articles, no more than 2 websites or internet sources. Only use academically credible sources. Unless you are doing a historical topic, use only sources published since the year 2000. So this example lays out fairly stringently what's required. If you are tasked with doing an annotated bibliography, then your assignment will also contain some similar types of information or requirements. Here are some examples of sample annotations. I won't go into them in depth, just to point out that in this one we see that at the top of the annotation there is a reference, citation of the reference, and then below it is a clear, concise, succinct summary of the reference itself with various comments made. Here are a couple of other ones that we've found. Again, each has a citation at the top, followed by an overview summary of the particular reference with comment and critique where necessary or where... I won't go into these in any great depth, but what we will do is we'll get you to go and have a look for some yourself. What I want you to do now is just spend a few minutes to go online and search for examples of annotated bibliographies. Use the CSU Library website, use Google Scholar, use a search engine, and have a look for some sample examples of annotated bibliographies. Examine the variations between the ones that you find. What are the similarities and how do they differ? Are some better than others? And if so, why? Finally, when you are tasked with compiling an annotated bibliography, remember these examples and the tips and the suggestions made during this small video presentation. Finally, read your assignment requirement clearly, and if you have any questions, contact your lecturer or your teaching staff to clarify what they might require and what their annotated bibliography should look like. Thank you.